Hey guys, this is Pug Weasel. How are you? This is another Preppers You Have It Wrong series video, and today we're going to talk about the misuse of antibiotics. A while back ago, I watched a video on a guy who was explaining to preppers about how they could go to the pet store and get fish antibiotics, and it would be over the counter. You wouldn't need a prescription, and that you could use them in the place of antibiotics in a post-apocalyptic world. One of the problems with that is that you don't have the right doses. You don't know what it is that you want, how long you should be taking them. None of that's going to be explained to you, and doctors tend to give certain amounts of dates depending on what it is that they believe is the issue and how long it's going to take to get rid of that bacteria. Another thing is so many people do not know that antibiotics are for bacteria and not viruses, that you may use them wrong because you have not diagnosed correctly what's going on with someone. So you have to be careful with antibiotics. Let me just read this to you as I read it so I can be succinct. And this counts for any antibiotics in general. If you're keeping old antibiotics, they do have an expiration date, but when you put them into in the trash and they end up in the water table, it's bad. If you're using fish antibiotics for shit hits the fan or first aid kit, you may be contributing to an end of the world crisis. They, like all antibiotics, have an expiration date, but if you throw them away in the traditional way, they end up in the water table. This helps to produce superbacteria, that is, antibiotic-resistant bacteria. We already have a super tuberculosis on the planet, and it's resistant to and a resistant strains of athlete's foot that has grown and become stronger in jails and in prisons. There are lower mortality rates for people who recuperate at home because of bacterial infections common at hospitals. If we don't have antibiotics at work, it's because we have exposed those bacteria to low doses of antibiotics, as in expired fish antibiotics that are put into the landfill. There's other reasons for that. You know, cows and certain livestock are also given antibiotics as a prophylactic, and when they relieve themselves, defecate, they are putting antibiotics into our system that ends up in the water table. These bacteria that live in those places become resistant to those antibiotics. So the same thing with people who go traveling and they take a Z-Pack, and because they felt bad, and it turned out to be a cold, which is a virus, they start taking them. They are possibly making some of those third world bacteria more resistant to that antibiotics. So it's going to be important after WROL has occurred, if that is what occurs, that you have not created a highly resistant bacteria if people are to survive. But more importantly, you could actually be causing the thing that causes that makes a SHTF or WORL situation occur. Because imagine if bacteria get so resistant to antibiotics and they don't make new ones, that being around each other in any way, shape, or form causes us to get sick in a way we can't help ourselves. So you're going to stay away from your neighbors. The police aren't going to want to come help you. I mean, think about that. There's going to be quarantines. You're going to have to turn on not only your neighbor, you're going to have to turn on family members if they look sick because they might have this resistant bacteria. So it's going to become a very dog-eat-dog situation where people who do have bacterial infections are going to pretend like they're not sick, hoping that they don't get kicked out to starve to death, and people who don't have that bacteria are going to have to look at their children and stick them off in a room for the sake of survival. Other adults are just going to be shunned. I mean, it's the real thing where something actually could happen going forward is antibiotic resistant bacteria, and you could be contributing to it if you're rotating in and out old antibiotics that you've taken for something else, or if you're using animal antibiotics that you bought at the pet store and then as they expire, just putting them in the trash. You really should take your old medications to the pharmacist and let them destroy them appropriately. So, something to think about. Is Spug Weasel? Think about it.